What is going on, everybody? If you don't know, now you do know. You're officially tuned in to a very special edition of the HFWB Podcast Series. This is your host, Clifton Pope. And with me today, I have a very special woman who I'm about to bring on here. And she's just very empowering, just within her own right, just from an overall energy perspective. And I'm going to break down the reason why. I mean, she's a trainer, she's a speaker, and an executive business coach helping others live a life by design, right? She is one of the co-founders of Gobundance Women's Mastermind, which is basically a community of executives, entrepreneurs, and investors focused on creating a full, abundant life, which is something that we could all utilize, right? But for over 2 decades, she has been one of the top recruiters for a $250 million company, as well as a sales and entrepreneurship trainer. She is proud to have helped literally over hundreds of entrepreneurs across different industries start and build profitable businesses while living a life they love, which is the American dream, everything we always strive for. She also specializes in team dynamics and helping entrepreneurs get more of their time back. And she also runs and facilitates amazing retreats where she helps her teams tap into their collective genius, something we all have within us, and unlock that explosive growth that will help us basically overall take us to the next level. Something I love about her the most, just like I said a second ago, is her overall focus of energy to live a full, abundant life. Again, something that we all need. And if you don't know who I'm talking about by now, please welcome the lovely Cathy Christen to the HFWB podcast series. Cathy, how is it going so far on this Feel Good Friday?
Oh, we're doing awesome. Thank you so much for having me with you. I'm super excited to be here as a guest and to be able to contribute to your community.
And yes, it's just that you said the key word right there, community, because it's a big networking community when it comes to overall entrepreneurships. And I remember the first time I came across you, and I mentioned this within our phone conversation a couple weeks back. It was through a mutual friend of ours named Jasmine Ascukeda, who's, I'm sorry if I said her last name wrong, but Jasmine, if you're listening, I apologize about that. You know, it's all love. But she's basically one of the co-founders and everything of Finders Keepers Classic with a good friend of mine named Jaron Jackson, who I've known for pretty much my whole entire life. But that's how I came across you originally. And I saw that you were into like fitness and nutrition and just overall the importance of just energy. And it's like, it ties into everything that you kind of have going as far as with what we talked about recently. It's just as far as like the 4 different kinds of energy and everything. I wanted you to kind of break that down to the people as far as like within your overall background story on how you came across these 4 different kinds of energies and how you utilize those 4 different kinds of energies to basically become the serial entrepreneur that you currently are today.
Well, thank you. I appreciate all the kind words.
No, of course.
Oh my gosh, so much to unpack there. You know, I think about for myself. So I started running my own business at age 19, right? And
Right.
I've had my that business for 22 years now. And
Wow.
I remember when I first started, I was like, all right, let's go. And being a young person, you're just like, go, 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 work, work, work.
Exactly.
I remember in my getting close to my mid 20s, I was like 24 and I felt so burned out. And I was like, how the heck do I continue this for another 30, 40, 50 years? Like, there's no way. Like, I'm going to fall on my face. And I was, I played sports my whole life and I was a collegiate athlete. And once I started my business, I noticed myself getting like just really out of shape. I noticed how low my energy levels were. I was trying to work. I was pushing, but I was like, man, I don't have that same energy. Right. And
Right.
at first I remember thinking, oh, it's just because I'm getting older. Right. But
That's what they
then
always
I'm
say.
at the gym and I see a 70-year-old kicking my ass on the treadmill, you know?
Oh my God. That's just motivation within itself to take you
Oh,
to
yeah.
another level. I
And I
understand.
was like, okay, there's more to this, right?
Right.
And I remember, you know, going through and just really realizing like there were different factors that were leading to it. And I went through this like quarter life crisis when I was 25 and just like really reevaluating a lot of things in my life. And am I doing what I should be doing? How come I don't feel good? I don't feel good. I'm tired. I don't want to go, do things. I'm just like, I just want to like lay down and sleep, and almost like this like little depression of just like, oh, this sucks, whatever. And I was running a $1 million business, doing amazing financially, but yet there was more, right? And
Right.
that's something that you see so much when you like look out at, humanity, and you look at people who might have it all, but then like, they're just not happy, right? And I just started studying and like looking into things. And I was like, okay, what do I need to do to get myself back? And I was like, I need more energy. And I started studying and looking at Harvard reviews and looking at all these things that talked about how energy, we look at energy, which by the way, I was not taking care of the foundation, which is our physical energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of times when human beings think about energy, they think about that. Okay, sleep, how are you sleeping? What are you eating, right? What are you drinking? Are you exercising, right? Those things that on the physical side, that playing volleyball, being an athlete, were so important, right? That physical energy piece. And I knew I wasn't doing that properly, like I wasn't cooking, I wasn't eating like healthy foods, like, and I was having a very hard time with that. I wasn't exercising because I was working, and then I was tired, like there was just so many, and I wasn't sleeping well. I'd stay up watching TV, and then I'd wake up early to go to work. And so first I was like, all right, so I need to get some systems in place for myself. But one of the things I had trouble with always since I was younger was eating healthy, because it just didn't taste good, And so being a high school athlete and collegiate athlete, honestly, being young and being an athlete, you can kind of eat whatever the hell you want, because you're just burning it, and you don't see it or feel it, and you're always exercising. I mean, I worked out at least twice a day. We had morning runs to the beach. We'd come back, we'd have practice in the afternoon. And so because of the physical side, that was releasing so many different endorphins and serotonin and things that were keeping me going, even though the food wasn't all there. Mm-hmm. Even being in college, it was easy because I could go to the cafeteria and I could eat a turkey wrap, or I could eat healthier options. But once I graduated at 21 and I was home, I wasn't cooking. I didn't have the cafeteria to give me healthy food. I was running through Taco Bell. I was running through McDonald's, like just eating whatever I could eat as I went. And I just didn't even realize like how that was just destroying me.
Yeah.
In high school, it didn't really make that big of a difference. You don't notice it as much, right? If you're a very active lifestyle. And so, but I just started to feel different, So that was the first thing, was putting things in place where I was like, okay, how do I make healthy, tasty? Like, how do I figure stuff out and start learning things, and cooking more at home, doing things that I like. So I knew what was going into the food, but also just trying to make better choices, when I went out, even if I was going to McDonald's, instead of buying the double cheeseburger and fries, I was like, okay, let me get a salad with grilled chicken. Right. And just trying to get the better options of things. And so, and then I started looking and just doing more research, and I saw like Harvard had talked about, well, there's the physical, but then there's emotional energy. And I thought about, oh my gosh, it's so true, right? When we're little kids, think about like we stay up all night because we're going to Disney the next day, or it's Christmas Eve, and you're like up waiting, and you're like, don't get much sleep.
Yeah, the anticipation, the excitement. You can barely sleep at night. I remember those days. Yes.
And you wake up at like 4 or 5 a.m. like just like, are we leaving yet? Are we ready? You're like, and that emotional energy has to do with that level of like how happy you are in your life, right? Like the excitement, the joy, the happiness. And that, think about like when you're in love, when you first meet someone and you're on the phone with them all night and you're getting to know them, but you're just so happy and you have this like
that
energy.
Warm, fuzzy feeling.
Yeah. But that, that energy comes from like that, just like, you're just so happy and joyful and like love. And so that is a part of energy, right?
Yes.
And people that are in very unhappy relationships or in unhappy places, like their energy's lower because they're just like, they're sad. And so the opposite is true. When you're depressed, when you're sad, like that brings your energy down. You could be eating the right things. You could be exercising. Now, by the way, exercise helps because again, it releases the endorphins, serotonin, all those things.
Yes, it does.
But just if you're just naturally, like if you're in a sad or depressed state, your energy levels are going to be a lot lower, and then you have a mental energy, right? And so if you start studying, and I'm in business, right? Like your human mind only can make so many decisions in a day, and so you want to make your most important ones. And when you have a lot of different things happening, or you're trying to multitask too much, it can just drain that mental energy. And then you're like, like, I don't know what's happening. And like, because you're giving yourself brain fatigue, right? And so you learn as an entrepreneur to really prioritize and go, okay, what are the things that I must get done today? And like, do them in the morning before that brain fatigue hits, right? Because just a certain point where I'm like, I just can't anymore. Like I'll be in
Exactly.
all day, and there's a certain point where I'm like, all right, guys, I'm done. Like my brain's like done. So knowing that and being strategic with that, right? And having like days where I like do some planning and having structure and knowing like what needs to happen so my brain's not working so hard. And so taking time like at the beginning of the week to like review the week, taking 5 minutes in the morning to walk through the day. And so your subconscious knows what's happening, and you can also like interrupt the interruptions, right? And so these were things that really made a big difference, for me. And lastly, and I think so important, is the emotional energy, spiritual energy. And spiritual energy is so real. And so whether that is for you meditation, or that's even going outside and grounding, like a connection with earth, but it's like the spiritual energy is a connection with something bigger than you, right? So whether that's Mother Earth, that's the earth, that's like just what's happening around, it's tapping into your higher self, it's talking to God, whatever it is that you believe in, right? And that there's this like energy that's coming from another source, right? It's kind of like you're plugging yourself into this power plug of like energy beyond, of what
tapping into your third eye and your higher level of consciousness. Yes, I love that.
So so that became like just such a big part of everything that I was doing, and as I made shifts going into that next year, I just remember that being a really big focus, because I remember it was 2007. I was 25. I was burnt out. I was just like, what am I doing? And it was this like intentionalness to go, how am I fueling myself? What am I plugging into to fuel my spiritual energy? What systems do I have in place to protect my mental energy? What am I doing that makes me happy? Which I started taking dance classes every Tuesday night, or like, I'm like, what am I doing that brings me joy? Whether I'm in a relationship or not, how can I do things that make me more happy? And then making sure I was taking care of my physical energy. And when I started doing that, Clifton, it was incredible. That next year in 2008, for my business, we broke the all-time record in the company's history in 4 months. And we absolutely crushed it. Like for our $250 million company, we were number one. And it felt so easy compared to like the year before. Like it was so fun. We built such an incredible community. Like everything was thriving. And that was just because of an intentional focus on how do I shift my energy, what takes care of it, and really pouring into that, and then just having fun. And it was amazing.
I'm just blown away by just everything that you just described, Cathy. And honestly, what you pretty much just described, for everyone who's listening, to kind of sum everything up, you basically described the law of perpetual transmutation of energy, which basically you have the ability to change your life into anything you want when you master things from a physical aspect, emotional aspect, mental aspect, or even a spiritual aspect. Just it's your responsibility to transform your life into anything you want, and it's your choice at the end of the day to accept or reject all the opportunities that the universe is giving out, not only just to yourself, but just to everybody. It's like, take it how it comes and make the most out of it. And that's pretty much what you're doing on a regular basis. And it's led you into this incredible position that you're currently in, just really just setting the standard as far as just not only entrepreneurship, but just overall business ownership. And it's like, I saw something in your information and stuff, as far as something that you were talking about, as far as like within one of your reels, as far as like the difference between like a business owner and a full-time operator. And I found that very interesting, because it's like, when you alluded to this earlier, when you started as far as just diving into entrepreneurship, diving into basically your own business, and of course, overcoming the burnouts and everything like that, it's like, it comes down to like, you can't do everything by yourself. You eventually got to recruit some assistance and put together like your own little personal team of Avengers, so to speak, is what I like to call it. Because for myself personally, things are really starting to take off in my end when I gotten, of course, the love of my life involved a little bit more into it. Now, ever since then, things are really starting to like skyrocket a little bit slowly, but it's really starting to take off. And you mentioned the importance of like systems being into place and having a team behind you to overall achieve the goals and the tasks of everything that you want to basically accomplish within operating a business and continuing your journey as an entrepreneurship. Where I'm getting at with this overall, Cathy, explain to the people, as far as whoever's listening to the HFWB podcast series, this particular episode, explain the importance of systems and teams as far as just within overall business and entrepreneurship, the importance of that.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because that was actually one of the big shifts from 2007 to 2008 for me as well. I remember it was January of 2008. I was in Las Vegas checking in at the Bellagio Hotel. I remember it like it was yesterday. I am Puerto Rican. I get, right now I'm not my full color, but I get pretty dark skinned, and I'm pale. I mean, I am yellow. I look like just a corpse. Okay. I had not seen the light of day. 2007, I just work. I didn't take care of myself, and I just looked like a jaundice. And I remember like I'm checking in and I look sick. And one of my mentors is checking in with the person next to me. He's, hey, Cathy. And I'm like, oh my gosh, hey, Justin. And he is an American white dude who is tanner than I am at that moment. He was super tan. I think he had just come back from like Costa Rica. I think he said, I can't remember exactly, but he had just come back from somewhere in like South America.
Wow.
And he's super tan. He looks over. He's like, hey, congratulations on a great year, and he said, keep it up. He's like, you're going to burn yourself out. He said, you become the number one manager in our company. Keep doing what you're doing and you're going to burn yourself to the ground, or something like that. And I said, oh my gosh. I'm like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like all defensive. And he goes, stop trying to be the best at everything yourself, and instead take pride in being the best teacher of everything. And that right there changed my world. I was like, oh my gosh, huh? And so, at first I took a little fun. I'm like, well, I'm really good at what I do. But he's like, but that shift of like, stop taking pride in being the best at everything and shift to being the best teacher of everything. And so he's like, who can you get in place, and can you take pride in people being as good or better than you, right? Like a lot of entrepreneurs let ego get in the way. I can do this better. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do. Why? If you look at the
back, more stress on you that you could easily avoid.
Oh God, you look at billionaires, like they've got teams. They're where they're at because they allow people to support them, because they have people that challenge them, poke holes, people that help build the business, and they help guide the ship, but they don't do it on their own. Right. And so I remember sitting down. And so what I did is this is one of the mistakes I see a lot of entrepreneurs make that lead to severe burnout, is that they don't take time to create an ideal vision for what their organization will look like 5-10 years from now, right? Even a year from now. And so it's like, you're starting a business, or maybe you have one right now and you've had it for a while, whatever it is. But if I said, if we could wave a magic wand a year from now, what would the organizational structure look like, right? It's like you, and then what, right? And for me, it was me, and then it was a head person that reported to me. And then it was a head of advertising, a head of recruitment, a head of sales development, a head of retention, right? And so there was different factors. I'm like, okay, who's going to lead each of these? So I created this org chart. So it was like me, and then I have my head person, like my sidekick, but like they can replace me when I'm not there. And then we have these 4 or 5 departments, and they all report to my head person. And then each of those departments has the people underneath that help work, right?
Yes.
And so I started designing this, and you might say, I hear people, oh, I don't have the money to pay. I'm like, I'm not saying that, but your brain needs to know where it's going, and you need to have a clear vision of what you want so that you could actually build that, attract it. Are you talking about it with the one person you're talking to? Or even if you're by yourself on a podcast, hey, our vision is next year to have a team in place to be able to do X, Y, and Z. But like, do you know where you're going? And so having that and saying, okay, the next year or 3 years from now, I'd love it to be here. And 5, like, how great, how amazing would it be if 5 years from now, this puppy ran itself, or we have 5 locations, or we have, whatever it is for you. But just having that vision of what that looks like. And so all of a sudden, once I did that, my brain started looking for it. And by the way, this doesn't have to cost you a bunch of money. Being newer, who I use? College students and high school. I always say that, I'm like, that are hungry, that need to do internships, that want to learn, that want to grow. They could do an unpaid internship. You could do a bonus based on how they do. You could do a paid internship and do minimum wage, because they're doing it for the experience. And so you can start with very cheap help of people in your industry who want to learn, and you can be that guide for them, that mentor for them. because that's a requirement when they graduate that they're doing internships, right? So why not do it with you? So I had someone intern that was our head of recruiting who wanted to be a lawyer, and they wanted to practice pitching and being on and putting, and so they ran interviews, and they'd be in front of 5, 7, 10 people, and they're selling that group on why they should work here. You know, they're informing, but they're informing in a way where people are like, oh, I want to be a part of that. And so just learning these different skills that he was going to use in the courtroom all the time. He has to enroll the jury with his statements and things that he says, right? Without looking like he's pitching them, right? Like knowing how to go through. And so it was really looking at, okay, what skills do these kids need and where can I put them in places where they're developing that? And that was cheap labor. And then as your business is growing, you go, you know what? Now I have the funds. I want to actually hire someone at blank per hour or blank salary to do this role, because look at how we're growing. And now I have the time. And, you know, I think in the first 3 years of your business, you're just reinvesting back into your business to grow it, to get it to a place where it's like, all right, now we're where we want to be, right? And it's operating. And so anyway, that was a big thing for me, but just knowing like, I can't do everything myself. I can't. If I want to 3 times my business or 5 times or 10x my business, I can't work 3 times, 5 times, or 10 times harder. There are no more hours than that.
Exactly.
So, how do you scale? You properly delegate. And that's what I had to learn, and getting the right people in the right seats.
That's one vocabulary word that everybody needs to add. As far as all the entrepreneurs and business owners who are listening to this episode, particularly of the HFWB podcast series, delegate. It's important because you're absolutely right, Cathy. I mean, it took me until probably, I would say, earlier this year, myself in the summer, to realize, I can't. I mean, if I really want to take health, fitness, wealth business to the level that I envisioned it from when I started it back in 2021, I'm going to need to put together a team of people who share the same ideas, values, and beliefs, and believe in the exact same sense of purpose that I am. That way we can, of course, push it out there. And at the same time, when I'm not there, have that head person who can carry on the message, and then have people under them as far as just to all work together for that overall common goal. Is just trying to uplift, empower, and inspire the community, which is just my overall mission within itself. And it's very, very important. And everybody who's listening to this episode right now, you just need to rewind this last part that Cathy, just explained, because those are gems on top of gems on top of gems that I myself am going to take in tremendously, and you should too. But speaking of all this,
by the way, I want to say this. One last thing with that is that starting off, at first, I started with one person, the one right under me, and they ran all 5 departments, right? Like it was just one person and me, and we ran everything. And then it was like, then it was empowering them, like, hey, how quickly can we find a person that can help with this? And how quickly can we help someone that can help with this? And they were excited to find those people. And so when we found one person, that one person initially ran 2 departments. This person ran 3 departments, but then they helped find people, and it kept growing, right? And so when you involve your people as well as like part of that building process, and really they feel like partners on your journey, helping build and create this vision you have, it helps a lot with retaining as well as people who are committed and not just clock in, clock out, I got to go, but like, I want to help build this. And so you have this different level of loyalty and commitment as you're building. And then, but you got to remember, it's not take. No. And then how are you helping them grow? And how are you helping them move forward in their lives? Right. And so we're helping each other, and this is a win-win for everybody. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
No, as you should, Cathy, as you should. It's like, you literally have like the green thumb of business, I feel like, and the green thumb of entrepreneurship, because you planted so many seeds as far as what you just described and what you already are doing. And now you're just watching them grow to like your own wonderful garden that you could just walk through and embrace and realize that I did this. It started with me, but at the same time, I couldn't have done it without the people behind me helping me take care of this overall garden.
No way would I be today where I am without the team that I've had always around me. No way.
Teamwork makes the dream work is basically what me and Cathy are trying to get across as this overall message. Speaking of another overall message, I want to get into the Gobundance women movement. I saw recently that maybe about a few weeks ago, something like that, you were just in Orlando for like a big convention, and all I just saw was just like a bunch of powerful women coming together to make a statement and basically let the people know, hey, we're not going anywhere. We are here to stay. We are passionate about what we're doing. We care about what we're doing. We love what we do. And we just want you to overall support what it is that you're doing. That way we can take this to higher levels than what we ever could imagine. Kind of define what a Gobundance woman is, the overall movement itself, and the overall message that is trying to be sent for those who are listening to the HFWB podcast series and are wondering, what is Gobundance woman and what is that movement all about, so to speak?
Yeah. So thank you so much for asking about that. I am so passionate about Gobundance. And by the way, Gobundance exists for men. It was actually a men's group unofficially for over 2 decades and became a mastermind over a decade ago. And I have the honor of being one of the co-founders of the women's division, which launched in 2019. But what is the Gobundance woman? What is the Gobundance person? It's someone who is heart-centered, who understands that life is more than money, who, by the way, values the power of money and the impact that money can have, but understands that true abundance lies in the quality of our relationships, the quality of our health, the fun and adventure that we get to have along the way as we build for the future, but also enjoying the now. It's the person who cares about contributing and giving back to our world beyond just their family, but leaving a legacy that's going to impact generations and humanity, for years to come, as well as accountability and passive income. And so that is the core of what like the Gobundance, entity, and the Gobundance woman is a powerful woman that is heart-centered, badass achiever, and excited to give back to our world.
I love that. It just goes back to kind of like a concept that I truly believe in as far as just starting from the heart, because I feel like when you start from the heart and you say, for instance, you're meditating and you want to remove yourself from your thoughts, emotions, everything, and just travel back into your heart, I feel like that's like the source for all information. For any question you may have, the heart will always have the answer, which is why they always say follow your heart, etc. So I love that message as far as just the Gobundance theme, because it's like I feel like that's something that we should all be practicing just based off of our skills, our talents, our gifts that are basically given to us from the higher power that is over us, as far as just what makes us our own unique person. It goes back to simply just starting from the heart. And I love that. I love that idea. And I feel like that message should be passed on more than ever in the days and times that we currently live in. So that's very well said. Very well said. And speaking of that, Cathy, I want to ask you this as far as just the overall message, as far as just you starting from your heart, even just translating that back to, of course, just being the best overall entrepreneur that you can overall be. For anyone who's listening to this episode of the HFWB podcast series, and if you can give them 3 key pieces of advice as far as if they're trying to get into entrepreneurship or unsure where to start, how they should approach it, as far as I want to like have control over my destiny, as far as from that perspective, what would you tell that person listening right now?
So for anybody who wants to start their business, I think one is really identifying what does life look like once you've accomplished that, right? Like once you've built that, like really having a clear vision of what you want your life to look like later, because that depends what kind of business you want to run, right? There's people that'll launch a business, but the business surrounds them always. They're the main act. They have to be there all the time. And so if their goal is to own this business, be able to travel the world and like have this complete freedom with their schedule, that might not match that business, right? Now we can adjust that business. I was talking to a good friend of mine who is the main, talent in her business. Like, how can you train other coaches? How can you allow them to support more? Can you show up as the guide or the expert once or twice a year, but create systems in place so you don't need to be there, right? So I think it's important to, one, know what you want things to look like in the future. So that you can design your organization based on that, right? Or you can decide which kind of business based on that. You know, two, I think it's really important to define a very clear mission and vision, mission for the actual business. So it's like, as a company, here's what we're about, you know, like here are our, this is our culture, you know, like what are you known for, right? When people work there, they know what to expect. Fun, friendly personality. We do this, we do that. And so really identifying like, if your business was a person, what are the characteristics? What are the attributes? What are the standards, right? That you have for your business, and having that in place so that as you're hiring people, like they know what you're about and they can hold you accountable to that, or you hire people into it based on them being a good cultural fit, right? And the last piece of advice that I would give when starting a business is then identify those roles, right? What are the different people that you're going to need in what positions, but really identify the characteristics you need in that person. So if you need an administrative or doing payroll or whatever, you need someone who's very detail oriented. And you can use personality tests for this, right? But like, I need that person in that role. If I have someone who's like really bubbly, great personality, I want them in a sales capacity or front facing to new customers. Maybe they're welcoming new clients or, you know, helping with the onboarding process, but really being able to match personalities to roles, because too many times I see people hire someone because they're great and just put them in a role, and that role kills that person because they were not the match for that role. And so really identifying what you need in each role. And as you do interview and bring people on, put them, you know what you're looking for in that role. And if you meet someone that you're like, they're just amazing, I want them on my team, then create a role for them. But don't just stick someone in a role that might not be matched for them, because you will not retain them and it'll make it much harder for you to build a business. You're going to be in a burn and churn all the time. And that's not what you want. And that's frustrating. It's taking time, money, energy from you that you can be putting elsewhere. So those would be my 3 biggest tips.
I love those. Those are some very key tips right there, as far as just for anyone who's trying to become an entrepreneur or a business owner from that perspective. And the key words I took out of everything you just said is have a vision, know where it is exactly the direction that you want to go, have a mission, of course, and a culture as far as what you're about, what you stand for. And this is how we're going to present ourselves, not only within the organization, but to the overall community and to the consumers within the organization. And just really just having that sense of like direction as far as just like where to take all of those things once you have all of that established. And it's just something that needs to be like said over and over again, just to have like a clear understanding as far as what kind of direction you want to go into as far as within your overall purpose of what you're trying to establish and bring to the forefront for people to just observe and witness. And it's well said again, Cathy, and that's definitely something that people should definitely take into consideration without a doubt. But overall, we're actually at the point, Cathy, where I'm actually gonna ask you a few questions that I usually ask everybody who are on my podcast, just to kind of like pick your brain a little bit. So
yeah, absolutely.
Of course. So the first question that I have for you is, what is the first thing you do or think of every single day that you wake up?
Ooh, what am I grateful for?
Hmm.
I like to really start in gratitude as I start the day. So like, what am I grateful for? Anything from the night before, or just as I start. I think that when you put on that lens of gratitude going into the day, like you just see so much more good in the day.
Well, very well said. And I completely agree. It's just like waking up and just dedicating like the first hour of your day towards just like, prayer, meditation, journaling, affirmations, reading a little bit, and just, of course, overall exercise, hence the Savers method that I kind of described for everyone who's unfamiliar with that. And another thing I would throw out there for everyone listening, I
grew up with Hal Elrod in Cutco. So Hal is actually the founder of Savers and wrote the Miracle Morning. So
that's exactly what I was just about to say. If I had to recommend like any book, at least 10 books I would recommend to somebody, that would be one of those books right there, The Miracle Morning by Al Harad. That was a game changer for myself. And really, it helped me develop more of a routine as far as what I wanted to do, as far as just having my own system.
Yeah, he wrote the foreword to my book. Hal Elrod wrote the foreword to my book. So, yeah, definitely check it out.
Oh yes, yes. I love How Harad. I love that Miracle Morning book. I literally have read that book probably 5 times already. It's just that's literally become a way of life for life. And it's like that's my way of practicing gratitude within my own life as far as just realizing all the things that I'm grateful for. As a matter of fact, I write at least 3 to 4 things that I'm grateful for every single day, and I make sure they're always different. Of course, the one thing that I'm always grateful for is that I'm grateful that God has allowed me to wake up and see another day. That's the first thing that I write down every single day, regardless, because tomorrow is not promised. And I wanted to, of course, stress the importance of that. And I'm glad that you stressed on the importance of gratitude. Be grateful for all the simple things, the big things, small things, and everything in between. Well said, for sure. My next question, Cathy, I actually have for you. When it comes to the words health and wealth, what is your own personal definition of those two things within itself?
The first thing that came to mind was energy. To me, like that is your health and wealth, right? Like just how you can have all the money in the world and be sick as hell, and like you can't enjoy it. Um,
Yeah,
so to me, it's having the energy to do the things that you love, and having no limit, time and money freedom, but it's the health, to be able to do anything that you want in the world. To me, that is like health and wealth.
I love that because it's like people don't understand like the importance of the law of energy and how everything is literally made of energy because it's like it's the vibrations and the frequencies. They're all constantly in motion. And most people don't even feel the certain frequencies that are within them, as far as like, for instance, when they listen to music, for instance, there's like a certain frequency. If you pay attention to it, it's so low and so basic, it literally is controlling everything as far as within the mind. But if you listen to certain frequencies, you can literally rewire that within yourself as far as like the energy discs and the overall chakra system and everything. And then you combine that with like meditation. That is just a game changer. And honestly, Cathy, that's something that I've been practicing myself within the last couple of months. And I feel like I'm in tune with the happiest, healthiest, whole version of myself that I feel like I've been at currently myself at 31 years old. Thank God for that, more than I've ever been in my 20s, which is just saying something within itself that there's so much more room for growth, so much more room for improvement, and so much more room just to simply get better. And it all comes down to energy and utilizing it and manipulating it to where it works in your advantage versus against you.
Mm-hmm.
It's very well said. I love how big you are on energy, and it's like I'm starting to understand that myself, and I truly respect that because it's like it's literally one of the 12 laws of the universe that make the universe what it is at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Now, Kathy, we're actually going to get a little bit into some either or again, as far as picking your brain, letting the people who are listening to the podcast get to know you a little bit as far as what you are about. So, my first either or to kick things off, would you rather choose loyalty or respect?
Loyalty.
Hmm. Interesting. Interesting. Well said. How would you rather live in space or live in the ocean?
In the ocean.
Would you rather be famous and poor or anonymous and rich?
Anonymous and rich.
I know since you travel all the time and you are a big foodie person, would you rather have unlimited free meals or would you rather have unlimited first class tickets to where you can travel anywhere you want?
Ooh, that's a hard one. All the other ones were easy. That's a hard one. Probably. Oh man, that's really hard. Unlimited free food because I'm rich and I can buy my flights. But I love being fed all the time, all different things.
I love the confidence behind that answer. I just love that as far as like, I'm rich, I could just buy flights whenever I want, but I would love to have whatever I can eat. I just love
Fed.
that.
I love to be fed everywhere I go, and if I don't have to pay for it, like let's do it. I
I
think
love that.
I eat a lot more and spend a lot more on food than I would on flights.
I got you. I got you. I could see that. I could see that actually. I was actually going to ask you next, would you rather dance to every song or sing to every song?
Dance.
Now, picture yourself if you were trapped on an island, right, Kathy, and you could only listen to 5 music artists. It doesn't matter the genre. It's their whole entire
So
catalog.
bad. I'm so bad with names of artists.
Who would they be and why, as far as if you can name 5?
I don't know that I can name. I'm like more of a genre person. So artists, I love Dave Matthews. I love Govi and like guitar. It's just Spanish guitar.
Okay. That's 2 right there.
I just don't know a lot of the people's names. Like there's just like really happy EDM that I love. I love Afro beats. They make my heart super happy, like Afro beats music. I just love music. Let me think. Oh my gosh, I can't do this one. I know no names of people. I'm like, that person, who is it? I'm always like Shazamming.
No, it's so cool. It's all good, Cathy. It's all good. And it's like, I feel like with what you just started off with and what you ventured into, I feel like the vibes from like the energy and the frequencies from the different kind of sounds will definitely attract someone. If they were traveling across the ocean and they noticed you on that island, they would probably come over there to see, hey, what's going on over there? And then they would definitely get you off of that island because and the energy, Cathy, it's the energy. People feed off of it based off of the frequencies.
Mark Anthony. I love Mark Anthony. We got to bring the salsa beats, all right, from my Puerto Rican side.
Yes. Well, on some Mark Anthony, I guarantee you somebody will definitely come and probably party out with you on that island.
I'm like such a music person. I'm like, oh, well, if it's in this, I'm like, I love Maluma. I love Mark Anthony. I love here. I'm like, if it's in this genre, I love these. I love music, but I need to learn people's names. So, yeah.
I got you. And I know you mentioned a second ago, Cathy, that you like to get fed everywhere you go. What would be your go-to favorite meal as an overall foodie that you are?
Can't do it. Can't do it. Depends on the genre. Depends on the if you're like, what's your favorite Thai dish? Pad Thai. And
let me rephrase that then in that case, Cathy. What would be your favorite type of food to eat as far as just the overall style and stuff? Let me rephrase it from that perspective.
Dang, I don't know. It depends what I'm in the mood for. I love Asian cuisine. Like I love good Thai food. I love great Mexican food. I love great Italian food. I love great Greek food. I'm really bad. Mediterranean spices. There we go. Mediterranean. Eating in the Mediterranean is probably my favorite place to eat. So whether it's like south of Spain, south of Italy, the Greek islands, or even getting into like Morocco, but all the spices there, like those are like my I just love how the food is.
So the Mediterranean diet is definitely right up your alley then in that case, based off of the spices just alone. I love that. And that actually kind of feeds into what I was going to actually ask you next. I know you've traveled all over the world and then some, Cathy. Where is the favorite place that you have traveled to so far? And where is a place that you haven't traveled to yet that you would like to travel to next?
Yes. Awesome. So favorite place overall, encompassing people, food, everything, would be the Greek Isles. I love the Greek Isles. I love the Mediterranean. So the Mediterranean is my favorite place.
Okay.
And Fiji was pretty amazing too, but more for the scenery. Places where I'd like to go. I'm torn between Bali and South Africa. Those are my next 2 places that I'm really excited. But I want to spend some time in Bali, in Thailand, and just disconnect to reconnect. But just like the nature, the beauty, the way of life is very attractive, and I'm excited to check that out.
I'm glad that you mentioned that too, because I was thinking to myself, Bali, I never heard of that. And then you mentioned Thailand. I was like, oh, okay. I could see why, because of the whole getting in tune with nature, of course, Mother Earth and everything. That makes a whole lot of sense from that perspective. And it feeds into overall what you're about, your overall focus, energy. I love that. And I know you're such an energetic person based on the conversations that we've been having overall so far that you're super busy. You're all over the place, nonstop. As a matter of fact, for those who are listening, I'm going to give a little exclusive here. This HFWB podcast interview literally came together out of nowhere while I was relaxing. But for Cathy, I had to make this happen because it was just something that was going to be unique within its own right. But overall, whenever you're not busy and when you're not doing all the things that you're doing on a regular basis, what are some of your favorite hobbies that you like to do that many people may not know you like to do?
Oh, I think everyone knows dancing and playing with my boys. That's where my spare time will go. So whether it's being at the beach building sandcastles so we can smash them with monster trucks, or going out dancing with my husband and friends, like that's what I do in my off time.
Well, good to know. Good to know. And last question, that before we wrap everything up, of course, if you had the opportunity, Cathy, right, to go back in time to talk to yourself 10 years ago, what would you tell yourself?
Mm.
Same time, based on your overall journey currently and where it's going forward, where do you see yourself in the next 10 years?
I would have said to myself, it's going to be even better than you could imagine. Or it could be better than you could even imagine, depending on, which 10 years ago. Right now, it's going to be better than you could have even imagined.
Got you. And if you had the opportunity, where do you see yourself in the next 10 years from now?
Saying from now till future.
Gotcha. Yes.
I see myself probably somewhere in the world. I don't know where, but we'll be traveling the world with the boys and doing some homeschooling and really getting a chance to experience like God's earth. I'm blown away by nature and like just all the different like countries and the beauty in this world. And that's something that I'm on a mission to be able to share that with my boys and to be able to, learn and experience as they learn the world around them. So in 10 years, my little will be 11. My oldest will be 14, and getting a chance to have these incredible experiences with them as they're in such a moldable time of their life. So I'm really excited about that.
I love that. I love the connection that you have just with your boys based on what you've been explaining so far, Cathy, because I feel like everywhere you've already been to across the world, when your kids get older, I feel like you're just going to go on a nice little repeat run and take them to all the places that you've seen. That way you can have them experience that. That way they could get an understanding of where you're coming from and how you were feeling in those exact moments. You should actually consider making like a good old documentary out of it or something, Cathy, just as far as traveling the world with Cathy Christen, as far as just learning how to capture your overall energy. I may be onto something there. You never know. I'm just throwing that out there. I mean, it sounds good so far. I mean, hey.
I love it. Thank you so much for having me today. I really
of course, Cathy. And before we go, for anyone who wants to listen to, as far as just to overall anything you may have coming out, as far as any future projects, where can people find you as far as social media handles? Hey, let the people know who are listening right now.
Absolutely. So at Cathy V Christen. So Cathy's with a C, Cathy. V for my maiden name Vasquez, and then Christen is actually spelled like the name Chris, Chris, and then the number 10, TEN. So Cathy at Cathy V Christen. You can also go to my website, cathychristen.com, and that has all my social handles there. But we have, if you are listening to this before November 7th, and I know we have 3 planned for the end of the year, we are actually going to be running a free masterclass for anybody who's an entrepreneur and wants to learn more with the 5 biggest mistakes entrepreneurs make that lead to severe burnout and how to avoid them. And so I'm really excited to be able to share that with the world. I remember that season of my life and how hard it was, and being able to overcome that and having tools and resources to be able to set things in place and really thrive, not just survive.
And before we go, will those actual masterclass links be on your website? Just
on my Instagram, they'll be on Instagram. We'll be posting them all over social, Facebook and Instagram primarily. And we're doing a revamp with the website over the next couple of months. So I don't know how much will be there, but definitely Instagram and Facebook. That would be your best bet, is to connect with me on Instagram.
So for those who are listening to this before November the 7th, be sure don't miss out on that masterclass, because it's going to be very valuable information being provided there. And for those who are listening to this after November 7th, and if you missed out on it, it's okay. Just follow Cathy on her Facebook, follow Cathy on her Instagram, on all the handles that she mentioned. And
we'll be again November 28th, and we'll be again on December 12th. So those are the next couple ones that are planned, those free master classes. But yeah, follow me on Instagram. That's the best to know what's happening and what's coming up.
Yes, indeed. And with that being said, Cathy, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to simply bless us with an appearance on the HFWB podcast series. It's been truly an honor. A lot of great information being thrown out there. And For those listening, I hope that you heed all the words, one single sentence at a time. Cathy, it's been a pleasure.
So yeah, thank you so much, hon.
And for everyone who's listening to the HFWB podcast series, this is your host, Clifton Pope, and I encourage everybody to stay healthy, wealthy, and blessed. Until next time, peace and love.